Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Good morning, everyone. Calling the roll for the Monday, July 15th Board of Control meeting. It is now 11:03 a.m. We have Nan Baker, Dale Miller, Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Dan Brady, Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Mike Dever, Dennis Kennedy serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The first item on the agenda is to review the minutes of the Board of Control meeting for July 8th. Everybody's had a chance to look at those over in advance. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval of the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Is there any public comment today?
No public comment at this time.
Any tabled items?
And no tabled items.
Okay, so then we'll move forward with the first scheduled item.
The first item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2019-529, Department of Development. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 45923, which will result in a payment to the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission in the amount of $225,000 for operational support for the period July 15th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. And B, recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Paul Hertig with the Department of Development. This payment is Cuyahoga County's annual operating support to the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. This is the same amount we've paid each year for a number of years. This amount was included in our annual operating budget, and we're simply processing the payment for this year.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilman Miller.
Not a question, just to indicate my support for their work. They're landing big things for Cleveland. That's making a difference for our community, and we would do right to continue to support them.
Very well said. Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Why is the time period so short, 7/15 to 11/31/19? Is there a particular project that they're working on?
Great. That's a great question. We are attempting to follow all the rules. The first rule is we can't start the support before the date of this meeting, but we also don't want to be put in a situation where we can't process next year's support a little more quickly. We were a little bit slow doing the paperwork. There's plenty of activity at the Sports Commission, and there's no doubt that our operating support will be fully utilized during the second half of the year. So we're attempting to catch up a little so that we can in the future bring these payments forward more early in each calendar year.
May I follow? So is the $225,000 an amount that you would have asked for earlier if you were perhaps on task at the time that you thought you would be, or do you expect to spend the $225,000 in the time period that's here?
Again, thank you for the question. This is the annual amount, and because of the size of the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, the very complex operations, there's no doubt they will use this amount fully within this shortened time period, but this is the annual amount.
Sure.
Yes.
Is there anything that you have committed to that you have not paid for yet that is going to come out of this $225,000?
Great question. The answer is no. This is not earmarked or committed for any specific project. It's general operating support.
Mr. McAleer?
Mr. Chair, if I just may add that this amount, I think, has been the same probably for, it was at least under the commissioner's form of government. We've consistently given this amount. It, as Paul mentioned, it isn't for a specific purpose, but just more for annual operating expenses. There's been times where they've come for additional requests and for specific uses, but this money is not required to go to anything specific, just for their annual operating expenditures.
Councilwoman Baker?
So, given that it's already been put aside and budgeted for this, would you have come to us January 1st of this year for the $225,000, and would this $225,000 have lasted to the end of the year, or perhaps as we heard there would be more added later?
There's no intention to add more later. I will say, just because of the way development's budget works, there was a little bit of concern early in the year that we might have to communicate with some of the outside parties, like the Sports Commission, that we maybe couldn't honor the full amount. But we were able to resolve that issue based by looking at our budget, making sure we'd be able to honor the full amount. It would have been a difficult conversation because they were expecting it, but our director really wanted to make sure we were able to honor all the obligations. So there was a little bit of internal review going on. I can't say it really took us 6.5 months, but we did have a little bit of review we needed to do at the beginning of the year.
If I may.
Certainly.
So between January 1st and now,
Right.
how were you able to do your planning and your implementing and what it is that we support for the Sports Commission without this being passed earlier?
Right. I will only say that they apparently have a pretty healthy cash flow, so that Mr. Gilbert had not pressed us to do this more quickly. We have other outside parties that don't have such a healthy cash flow, but
Okay.
this particular organization is either very confident in our payment or, so David felt that he didn't want to press the issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Meckler?
Mr. Chair, just one more comment related to the funding for the Sports Commission and even the Film Commission. This is something in the past that has been part of proposed budget reductions from the administration, but in the past, council has restored these proposed reductions because of the importance that I think that council members in particular believe the value that they bring to the county.
I'm not questioning your good work. I mean, absolutely, we see it. I was just curious as to why it's $715 asking for the funds for an annual budget, that's all.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item's approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-530, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with County Commissioners Association of Ohio, Service Corporation / Ohio Child Support Enforcement Agency Directors Association, Inc., for clear subscription services, and it's for the period February 1st, 2016 through May 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to May 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $40,053.60.
Good morning. This is Richard Weiler from the Office of Child Support. This is a contract with 40 child support users and 5 JFS workers. And child support is used to locate people that for paternity testing, and also it's used for in the collection of back child support. In JFS, it's used by the fraud department. This contract is shortly or a little bit overdue, just because we try and use the buying power of the County Commissioners Association to reduce the cost of this contract. It probably has been reduced by 50% by waiting for this County Commissioners Association to get their contract in place, and then we proceeded with our contract off of that.
Any questions about this item? Councilwoman Baker.
So we have been, though, receiving West Publishing Corporation services since February 1st?
Yes, we have.
And no payments have been given to them?
No, we don't have a contract in place, so we can't make payments.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item's approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-531, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, submitting an amendment to a contract with Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point for out-of-school time services for youth. And it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, to expand the scope of services to provide professional development services to out-of-school time partners and summer out-of-school time activities for Closing the Achievement Gap Summer Bridge Program, effective July 15th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $52,000.
Good morning, Robin Martin, Family and Children First Council. This amendment covers 3 areas. The first portion is the professional development. Based on our recent 3-year evaluation that was completed by Case Western Reserve University, we identified 2 areas in the evaluation that we have been watching over the last couple years. They're part of the YPQA, the Youth Quality Assessment Program, evaluation. And the 2 areas are interaction and engagement. And historically, we are scored between 0 and 5. And in those 2 areas, we've never been able to make it past about a 2.8. That is a national issue across the country. And we really want to move that marker in our area. So we are working with the sub-grantee on this contract, the Weichert Center. And they are coming in to help our sites read their assessment results that they receive. There's an assessment, there's a 2-part assessment. There's a self-assessment and then an external assessment to get their score, to help them read their assessment and turn their results into strategies. There's a 1-hour session after they have the assessment review to develop corrective action plans. And then after, there's a follow-up to do 53 individual site visits to monitor the implementation. The second part of the contract is additional training where we are looking at trauma-informed care, adequate respectful adult and youth interactions, and youth-centered practice, active shooter training, equality, opportunity, and readiness, changing the odds together. We have identified, Starting Point has identified 3 vendors to implement that training, and they're still looking for a third. The 3 vendors are Troy Mart, Frontline, and a law enforcement vendor. And then the third part of the amendment is a $2,000 payment to our Summer Bridge program for Closing the Achievement Gap. When Starting Point did the allocations for Closing the Achievement Gap, they used our original contract with them in 2018, not the amendment, which added additional funds for Summer Bridge. So they had to go back and add the additional $500 for the 4 sites to do the Summer Bridge program. And this is, the Weichert training should be one time. And again, it is based on the assessment and the evaluation that was done by Case.
Any questions on this item? Councilman Miller?
Thank you very much for that presentation, and I appreciate the commitment to quality. My question is whether we're going to measure the effectiveness of the professional training and see if it produces a result in the quality performance.
Yes, the quality portion of the evaluation is an ongoing portion of the evaluation, and so we will be looking each quarter, each time they receive the assessment, to see if that number is going up.
You're saying that 2.8 on a scale of 5 has kind of been a ceiling. What kind of number are you looking for?
We want to at least get into the mid or upper 3 range.
Be a substantial improvement.
Yes.
And could you describe the test instrument? How is that number determined?
I would have to get more information about that and get back to you.
Okay.
Because it's been a long time since I looked at it, and I don't want to give you incorrect information.
I would like that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Baker?
So 50,000 of it is going to provide professional development services. So how many professional development, are there like 4 people or how many? What
There are
type of-
52 sites,
There's 52 sites?
correct?
Okay. And so is that divided among those 52 sites?
Yes.
Is that, what kind of training is it? Is it seminar? Is it online? Is it-
Both. Some of it is webinar, some of it's face-to-face. It depends on whether or not the vendor, we try to do as much webinar as possible so that the providers are not leaving their sites. But there are some trainings that they have to come off-site for.
So that would be under $1,000 a site, 52 sites, you have 50,000.
Yes.
So you feel very confident that $800 or $900 per site is enough to do the professional training that you're asking to bring the number up to 3?
Yes.
Yes? I'll be interested to hear, and I am glad that you're looking at the survey that was conducted, and you're now doing something that you're reading needs to be done.
All of our
So I'm glad to see that you're reacting to it.
all of our professional development training is driven by their assessment and that portion of the evaluation. So even those other sessions that I mentioned, they're based on the assessments and what the sites are saying they need in addition to the portion that's done by the Weicker Center.
Okay. And what are the ages? Who are we? Are these elementary or?
Majority of the kids are under the age of 12. However, we do have some sites that have older youth.
Okay. So under 12 and a few extra. All right. Thank you for your work.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item's approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-532, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with University Settlement, Inc. for development and implementation of Senior Center Innovation Programming in connection with the Senior Center Innovation Grant Program. And it's for the period August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $5,000.
Thank you. Good morning. Chris Alexander, Department of Health and Human Services. On behalf of the Department of Senior and Adult Services, we're requesting to amend a contract with University Settlement to continue to provide outreach services and wellness services to seniors in the Broadway Slavic Village neighborhood. This contract was competitively procured last year under the Senior Innovation Round 2 contracts that were issued through DSAS. It covered an outreach worker's salary and small equipment costs. We have leveraged a physician with Metro Health to come in and provide monthly wellness clinics. We have a little money left over from last year's contract, approximately $22,000. If this contract were extended, we can continue to provide the outreach worker salary through the end of this year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-533, Sheriff's Department, submitting agreements with various municipalities for inmate housing services in the total amount not to exceed $30,000, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, for A, Village of Highland Hills in the amount not to exceed $25,000, and B, Village of Woodmere in the amount not to exceed $5,000.
Good morning. Yes, this is for 2 of 3 contracts that we need to get signed because we've been accepting prisoners since the previous one expired. And I got some questions, and I realize it's way past the expiration date. So,
Lauren, could you introduce yourself?
oh, I'm sorry. I'm Lauren Harrell from the Sheriff's Department. Sorry.
Mr. McAleer.
Lauren, thanks for the written responses to the questions in advance. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
What's the third city or subdivision that we still need to get approved?
Parks, Cleveland Metro Parks. There's 2 more that are out there, but they won't be going forward right now, so.
At the decision of the administration or the decision of the city or subdivision?
Well, one was for Metro Police, but I just found out that they actually are covered under the Cleveland agency contract, so we didn't need to do that one. And then the second one was Richmond Heights. That one's put on hold because of, by the administration.
And do you know approximately, I can do the math, but how many inmates per year we have with Highland Hills and Woodmere?
So far to date for 2019, we've had 37 for Highland Hills and 12 for Woodmere.
And was the first contract for 2018, or did we have one prior to 2018 to house these 2?
For those 2, the first one was in 2018.
Okay, I think you addressed why it was late in the written responses.
Yeah, it was mostly because of a change in leadership. Our former leader resigned, so he was kind of the overseer of those prior to, and they kind of got pushed aside. But when the Euclid contract came up in front of the Border Control in April, it was brought to my attention the same day, and the following day is when we got the ball rolling to make sure that we got all the contracts together and updated and amended and got it to legal right away. And then it took about another month and a half just to get responses from the agencies because they had to go through their council and get it approved on their end as well.
Do both of the villages bring their inmates downtown, do you know, or are they housed at either Euclid or Bedford?
So Woodmere takes theirs to Bedford Heights, and Highland Hills didn't respond. I believe they come downtown, but I know prior to their contract with us, they were taking them to the Bedford jail. So there's a possibility that they may take them to Bedford Heights as well.
Can I ask one more?
Yes.
Do you have the anticipated contract amount for the Metro Parks that'll be coming?
Yes, theirs is the same as last year. I don't have it on me, so I can get you that information as soon as I get back to my desk.
Anything else, Mr. Meckler? Councilman Miller?
How many municipalities or other entities do we have contracts with for the housing of prisoners?
We have, let's see, I'll give you the total. So we have that are currently in place or need to be approved because
that we do business with, that either they need to be approved or they're currently in operation. What's the total number of
agencies
that we're working?
There are, let's see, Metro, Richmond, Highland, Woodmere, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. I want to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure, yeah, about 7 or 8.
Okay, and could you follow up and send me a list of who they all are and what the amount of the contract is and when it expires?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, okay. And my big problem with this item is not about it being 7 months late. I think that's incidental. My problem is why are we housing prisoners for other municipalities when we're 300 or so inmates over capacity in the downtown jail, and the overcapacity seems to have so much to do with the problems that we're having over there. I just don't get it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
and I'm sure the question is above your pay grade, so I'm not even going to ask you to try to answer it. But what I'm going to say is that tomorrow at the Public Safety Committee, when I'm sure the Euclid situation is going to be discussed, I'm going to ask the chairman of that committee to lead a comprehensive review of our policy. I think we need to totally rethink this enterprise in the light of the current situation and figure out what makes sense going forward. I'm gonna vote for this item only because I don't want to leave Highland Hills and Woodmere in the lurch all of a sudden, but I'm not inclined to vote for any renewals, until we get our numbers down to rated capacity and fix the problems.
Right.
I think we have to deal with our own situation before we try to tell anybody else that we're such hot stuff that we can handle their prisoners for them, because obviously right now we're not. So hopefully by that time we'll have a comprehensive strategy in place that we can agree upon and make sense. But so that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilwoman Baker.
I, of course, agree with everything that was just said and will support Councilman Miller's request when we come to public safety, that I am also a committee member. But just curious, the 30,000 not to exceed, would that number have been the same if you had been here in January?
For the contract?
Right, because right now we only have about 5 months left of this contract.
Right.
So is that a reduced amount of revenue generating, or is that would have been the amount you would have come with in January?
That's their not to exceed amount, and that's more than enough to cover their prisoners because they don't have many. So
Okay.
that's just their not to exceed
So
amount.
that'll be considerably less, given we're only 5 months to the end of the year.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. McAleer?
Or just as follow-up to that question, we've been housing these inmates, though, since January 1st of this year. We didn't stop taking the inmates, correct? We're still
Correct.
taking, so this amount I don't think would have been different if it would have started January 1, because they still have to pay us for the inmates we've already housed.
Yeah.
'Cause we've
And it's
housed,
the same, sorry, it's the same as last year's as well.
So just to clarify, whether or not this contract is approved today in Board of Control, things were just as usual? Nothing would have changed? What if they hadn't come to us at all? How,
we kept taking both villages inmates even without this contract.
without it? Okay, thanks.
We did, just to clarify, the county, council was not taking these inmates.
We were still, accepting their prisoners after their contract expired, and they were grateful for that, so.
I would just like to comment, Trevor McAleer asked about the dollar amount for the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District. It's in the amount not to exceed $36,000.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments about this item? Councilwoman Baker?
So, we're receiving dollars even though this contract wasn't approved. How can we do that?
We haven't. We have not billed. We've been invoicing and keeping a record,
Okay,
but we have not collected payment from them, and we will not until it's approved.
thank you.
Anything else? I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're moving right along to the consent agenda. Item numbers BC 2019-534 through 536.
Okay, if everybody would take a moment to review the items on the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments or changes of anything on the consent agenda?
Question posed by County Council for item number 7, purchases processed, and it was for the 2019 Cleveland HR Star Conference, and Sarah Sandella is here to provide additional information.
Hi, Sarah Sandella, Department of Development with Skillip. We're attending the 2019 HR Star Conference. We attended last year as well. It's for visibility to get our services out there and let people know of the service within the county, as well as network and engage with businesses. Approximately 600 HR professionals will be in attendance, so it's a great opportunity for us to, like I said, have the visibility and network and engage more through our Skillip process.
Any questions? Mr. McAleer?
Mr. Chair, not related to item number 7, but just a comment on the food purchases for the jail. We're buying food from July through September food, and we asked the question about the status of the food services RFP for the jail, and it indicated the answers look like they have preliminary selected a vendor to provide those services, and the county is going to begin negotiations July 23rd. So this could be the last food services purchase, depending on how the negotiations go with the selected vendor.
Okay.
I have a question.
Councilman Miller?
My question is about the travel request from the Public Defender's Office. And it notes that this travel is subject to 42% reimbursement by the Office of the Ohio Public Defender. And if I understand it correctly, in the state budget, they're very close to going to 100% reimbursement for the upcoming year. And my question is whether the same conference or another conference would take place again, or whether with the date not until October, maybe we can get 100% reimbursement for this conference.
Mark Buzzer with the Office of the Public Defender. That's correct. They haven't voted on the budget yet. Once it does go through, whatever percentage the reimbursement is will be reflected in any of our operating costs.
Okay, so hopefully we can get 100% on this item.
That'd be beautiful, but I don't think it's going to be 100%, but there's all kinds of talk right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments about the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. Is there any other business today?
No other business at this time,
Any public comment?
and no public comment.
Okay, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.